Welcome to my channel. Subscribe, listen and enjoy my stories every day. The crisp evening air brushes against my face as I set out for my routine jog, the fading sunlight casting long shadows on the pavement. The rhythmic pounding of my feet against the concrete is therapeutic, a much-needed release from the day's stress. As I round the familiar bend, the path offers a clear view of our cozy, two-story home nestled among the trees. It's a peaceful sight, usually. Tonight, though, the tranquility shatters. Through the bay window, I spot a figure, distinctly not mine, leaning close to Laura, my wife of 7 years. My pace slows, heart rate inexplicably increasing not from the jog, but from the unsettling scene unfolding before my eyes. The distance closes, and the details become painfully clear. It's an old man, his hand tenderly caressing her neck, planting a kiss there. A knot tightens in my stomach. Driven by a mixture of disbelief and rising fury, I abandon my planned route and veer off the path, cutting across our lawn to get a closer look. As I near the window, obscured slightly by the evening's dim light and the curtains flutter, the man turns slightly, and my world tilts on its axis. "Dad?" The word escapes my lips in a choked whisper, disbelief coloring my tone. The figure is unmistakably that of my father, a man of 60, whose visits had become all too rare. The shock roots me to the spot, a voyeur to my own life unraveling. Inside, Laura laughs at something he says, oblivious to my discovery. Their intimacy is palpable, a stark contrast to the formal politeness that has crept into our marriage. I watch, frozen, as my father whispers something in her ear, prompting another silvery laugh from Laura. The betrayal slices through me, sharp and unexpected. I retreat a step, vision blurring with a cocktail of emotions. Anger. Sorrow. Disbelief. Confrontation is inevitable. I can't stand idly by. With each heavy step toward the front door, my resolve hardens. The door slams louder than I intend as I enter. Laura jumps, startled, her face morphing from surprise to confusion upon seeing me. My father turns, his usual warm gaze now cool and guarded. "Mark. Why are you home so early?" Laura stammers, color draining from her face. Ignoring her, my eyes fix on the man who raised me. "Dad, what are you doing here?" His response is slow, measured. "I was just catching up with Laura. We didn't hear you come in." Catching up, a flimsy excuse. I can barely hear it over the blood rushing in my ears. "Laura, can we talk?" "Now." My voice is steel, my gaze never leaving my father's face. She nods, her expression a mix of fear and confusion. She follows me into the kitchen, away from the unwelcome guest in our living room. As soon as we're out of earshot, I whirl on her. "What's going on, Laura?" "With my father?" I demand, unable to keep the accusation from my tone. She wrings her hands, looking everywhere but at me. "It's not what it looks like, Mark. Please, let me explain." But the image is burned into my mind, undeniable and raw. "I saw you, Laura. How long has this been going on?" Her silence is answer enough. Rage, hot and blinding, courses through me. The trust we built over years, shattered in an instant by the two people I trusted most. The next steps are clear: divorce, separation, a complete cutting of ties. I vow then and there, hurt etching deep into my heart, that neither Laura nor my father will have a place in my life after today. "I want you out," I state coldly, every word laced with finality. "Out of my house. Out of my life." Her protests fall on deaf ears as I turn away, the decision cementing itself in my core. Tonight marks the end of one chapter and the bleak beginning of another. I walk away, leaving her pleading in the kitchen, my father's betrayed eyes following me out the door. The die is cast. There is no turning back. 2 weeks have passed since the night that altered everything. The once familiar spaces of my home now echo with the emptiness of Lara's absence. Her things are gone, taken in a whirlwind of tears and pleading that I watched with a detached coldness, my heart sealed behind an impenetrable wall. Today, I'm at the Rusty Tap, a local bar that serves as a sanctuary from the lingering ghosts at home. The low hum of conversations around me is a welcome distraction. My friend, Tom, sits across from me, nursing his drink with a concerned frown etched deeply into his features. "Mark, you can't let this eat you up, man," Tom says, his voice tinged with worry. "It's not healthy to bottle everything up. Have you spoken to your dad since that night?" I shake my head, staring into the amber liquid in my glass. "No. And I don't plan to. How could he?" The words come out sharper than I intend, my grip tightening around the glass. Tom sighs, leaning back. "It's messed up, no doubt. But maybe there's more to it." "Maybe. More to it?" I cut him off, my voice rising slightly. A few heads turn in our direction, and I lower my voice, leaning in. "He betrayed me, Tom. There's no excuse." Before Tom can reply, a distraction arrives in the form of Jenna, another old friend who approaches our table with a hesitant smile. "Hey, Mark. I just heard. I'm so sorry." Her sympathy, meant to comfort, only tightens the knot in my stomach. "Thanks, Jenna," I manage to say, offering a tight-lipped smile. Jenna takes a seat, her expression serious. "Look, I know it's none of my business, but if you need someone to talk to, professionally, I mean, my sister's a therapist. She's really good, Mark." I consider it for a moment, the suggestion worming its way through my resolve. Therapy hadn't crossed my mind, but perhaps it's a necessity now, a way to navigate through the betrayal. "Maybe," I admit, finally. "I'll think about it." Jenna nods, pleased. "Good. And, I also heard your dad's been trying to reach you. He's really torn up about this." The mention of my father reignites a flicker of anger, but it's dampened by the weeks of cold silence from him. "He should be," I mutter, swirling the drink in my hand. Tom interjects, trying to lighten the mood. "How about a change of topic? Let's talk about the Mets, huh? Any hope this season?" We shift to safer, impersonal topics, but my thoughts keep circling back to Jenna's words and Lara's last tearful look. The evening drags on, a mixture of laughter and unspoken tensions. As we leave the bar, Jenna pulls me aside. "Really, Mark. Think about talking to someone. And maybe talk to your dad. Just to hear him out." The cool night air hits me as I step outside, the possibility lingering like an aftertaste. Could I face him? Should I? The walk home is quiet, the streets empty, and my mind races with the echo of Jenna's advice and the unresolved anguish. Reaching my doorstep, I pause, a decision forming amidst the chaos of betrayal and hurt. Maybe it's time to confront the past, to face my father. Not for reconciliation, but for closure, for my own peace. As I unlock the door, the weight of the key feels heavier than usual. Tomorrow, I decide. Tomorrow I will face him. The morning is gray, the clouds heavy with the threat of rain. My resolve from last night has solidified into a firm decision as I drive to my father's house, a place I haven't visited since the discovery. Each mile that I cover bridges not just distance but months of unspoken pain and betrayal. Pulling into the driveway, I see his car, the familiar silver sedan, parked outside. It's a sign that he's home, perhaps even expecting me after all the calls I've ignored. My heart races as I cut the engine and sit for a moment, gathering my thoughts. With a deep breath, I step out and approach the front door. Before I can even knock, it swings open. My father stands there, a mix of relief and apprehension in his eyes. "Mark," he starts, his voice shaky. "You came. Can we talk, Dad?" My voice is steady, belying the turmoil inside. He nods, stepping aside to let me in. The familiarity of the house, a backdrop to many happy childhood memories, now feels tainted. We sit across from each other in the living room, an awkward silence stretching between us. Finally, I break it. Why, Dad? Why her? He sighs, his hands trembling slightly as he clasps them together. It's complicated, Mark. It wasn't planned. It just happened. That's supposed to make it better. I snap, the hurt surfacing despite my attempts to keep it under control. No, of course not. But it's the truth, he replies. His gaze meets mine, filled with remorse. I'm sorry, Mark. More than you can know. I shake my head, frustration mounting. Sorry doesn't change what happened. How could you do this to me? To us? He looks down, unable to hold my gaze. I was lonely, Mark. After your mother passed, I was lost. Lara, she was there, she listened. It was never about love. It was companionship, a terrible error in judgment. The explanation doesn't soothe the sting of betrayal, but it adds a layer of complexity I hadn't considered. My anger battles with the lingering affection for the man who raised me, who now looks broken and diminished in his own guilt. We never meant to hurt you, he continues, his voice cracking. Did you think about me at all? I ask, the question loaded with all the pain of the past weeks. We did, he admits. We tried to end it, but you found out before we could resolve anything. I regret it, every single day. The room is silent again as I process his words. The man in front of me is both the father I loved and the stranger who betrayed me. It's a duality I'm struggling to reconcile. What now, Dad? I ask, the anger subsiding into a dull ache of disappointment. I don't know, son, he answers honestly. I hope, with time, you can forgive me. Not for my sake, but for yours. Holding on to anger, it's like poison. It eats away at you. I consider his words, the wisdom in them hard to deny despite the source. Forgiveness feels distant, a remote possibility, but perhaps a necessary one for my own peace. Standing up, I know this conversation marks the beginning of a long, difficult journey toward healing. I need time, Dad. I can't promise anything. I understand, he says, standing as well. Take all the time you need. I'm here when you're ready. I nod, the weight of the morning's revelations heavy on my shoulders as I walk back to my car. The sky opens up, rain beginning to fall, as if mirroring my own internal storm. As I drive away, the path forward is as unclear as the road veiled by the downpour, but the first steps toward understanding and healing have been taken. The weeks following my conversation with my father are filled with introspection and uneasy calm. I've begun to attend therapy, trying to unravel the tangled emotions that the betrayal unearthed. It's a slow, often painful process, but necessary. One rainy afternoon, I receive a call from Jenna. Her voice is tense, urgent. Mark, can you meet me at the cafe downtown? It's important. There's something you need to see. Curiosity and a hint of apprehension stir within me as I agree. The cafe is quiet, the usual chatter subdued by the relentless patter of rain against the windows. Jenna is already there, looking unusually grave. She doesn't waste time on pleasantries. Mark, I didn't know how to tell you this over the phone. She slides an envelope across the table. I found this out accidentally, and after seeing what you've been through. I open the envelope, pulling out a series of photographs and a few sheets of paper. The pictures show Lara and my father together, but not in the intimate settings I imagined. Instead, they are at various real estate offices and banks. Confusion furrows my brow as I turn to the documents, their property listings and transaction records. What is this, Jenna? I ask, struggling to piece it together. It's a scam, Mark. They were in it together, but not in the way you think. Your dad and Lara were flipping properties under your nose. The affection, the betrayal, it was a cover, a distraction so you wouldn't suspect the financial side of their deceit. The room spins as I absorb her words. It was never just an affair, it was a calculated betrayal for profit. I confronted Lara about it, Jenna continues. She broke down and told me everything. They planned to leave the country once they'd liquidated the last property. Rage, deeper and more bitter than before, courses through me. The emotional betrayal was just the surface, the deception was rooted in greed, manipulating my trust and my father's image to shield their crimes. Where is she now? My voice is a low growl, the need for final confrontation burning through the shock. Gone, Jenna replies softly. She left last night. I wanted to tell you in person. I thought you deserved to know the whole truth. The cafe feels stifling suddenly, the walls closing in as the magnitude of the deception sinks in. I stand abruptly, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. And my father? He's at his house. He doesn't know that Lara's gone, or that you know everything. Without another word, I leave the cafe, driven by a newfound determination to confront my father one last time. The drive is a blur, the rain a mere background to the storm raging within me. I arrive at his house, the anger a palpable force as I slam the car door and march up to the front door. I don't bother knocking, I use my key, the metal cold and unwelcome in my hand. He's in the living room, and the look on his face when he sees me is one of guilt-ridden surprise. Mark, Save it, I cut him off, throwing the photos and documents onto the coffee table. I know everything, Dad. The properties, the money, all of it. He sinks into a chair, his face aging 10 years in mere seconds. I'm sorry, Mark. I was so wrong. It started small, and then, it spiraled. This is where it ends, I state coldly. I've contacted the authorities. They'll handle it from here. He doesn't argue or plead. He simply nods, the defeat evident in his posture. As I turn to leave, the finality of the moment settles in. Goodbye, Dad. I hope it was worth it. Stepping out into the rain, the chill feels fitting, cleansing. I know the road to recovery will be long and fraught with challenges, but for the first time in months, there's a sense of closure. Lara is gone, the truth revealed, and my father will face the consequences of his actions. The betrayal will not define me. Instead, it's a painful chapter finally closed, allowing me to rebuild and find trust in new beginnings.